Before he even had the chance to get help, Buffalo Grove native Alex Lali died of a heroin overdose at the age of 20. His family, heartbroken, sprung into action, founding a group called Live for Lali that works to prevent and raise awareness of substance abuse here in the Chicago area and also across the United States. Today, Illinois Congressman Bob Dold took that mission to Capitol Hill with Lali's Law. It's part of a growing discussion on drug abuse and addiction. Lali's Law, if passed all the way through, it did pass in the House today, will help fund programs that allow pharmacists to distribute a heroin overdose antidote called naloxone without a prescription. The sponsor of Lali's Law, Congressman Bob Dold, is joining us tonight from Capitol Hill, along with Alex Liberté's sister, Chelsea. Good evening to both of you. Congressman, let me start with you.
Good evening, Monica.
Let me start with you. It went through. You got it passed through the House, and now it goes to the Senate. How does this work? Fill us in.
So what happened is that today the House passed 415-4 Lali's Law. It will be packaged with a series of other opioid initiatives that will be then sent over to a conference committee in the United States Senate.
Okay.
And from there it will hopefully go to the President's desk for signature.
Okay, so bottom line, we're funding this so that this antidote is more readily available. So somebody was in a bad situation, you could run to a pharmacy, get naloxone, don't need a prescription, so that unlike your brother, Chelsea, somebody could potentially be saved in the nick of time. Is that right?
Yeah, that's exactly right.
What was it that inspired your family to...
I think that it will just... I think that it will just, in general, create less stigma, which is really what's generating this problem. The more aware that people are that this exists, the more people who can actually reach out to get help, and I think that's ultimately what we want.
Okay. Let me ask you this, Congressman. There were some detractors who didn't go along with the program today, voted against it, and obviously a minority. But some criticism that I've heard is this in any way enabling somebody to stay hooked, because you sort of know, guess what, it's out there and I can quick get it for free, and so I don't really have to be that serious about trying to combat my addiction and get sober, get clean.
Well, the evidence just doesn't bear that out. So what I will tell you with regard to what this is doing is this is giving people a second chance at recovery. And what we have to realize is that an addiction is a disease and needs treatment. And so this is not necessarily the enabler. What this is doing is allowing people to have a second chance at recovery. That's what we're seeing that's happening all across Lake County, and we want to make sure that it can happen all across our country.
Do you have, with your organization, Chelsea, do you have any numbers? I mean, what you're guesstimating here, the lives that could be saved, for instance?
I think that the World Health Organization estimates that we could save 20,000 lives within, I think, the next year. But already, just with our work alone in Lake County and northwest Cook County, we are seeing thousands of lives saved, including 77 by the police in Lake County through our program at Lake County Opioid Initiative. So we're seeing the lives saved.
Okay. Can I ask you, what inspired your family to go this route? I mean, certainly many people, well, they've had tragedy within the family, but not everyone then takes it into the bigger level, into a campaign of this sort. What inspired you to go forward?
Simply this, Alex did not deserve the fate. He deserved to know more about what he was experiencing with his opioid dependency. He deserved to know more about how his body was going to respond to those opioids, and he didn't get a chance to actually save himself, or for somebody else like us in his life to save him either. So this is really an education initiative, and really that's what this is all about, just getting the word out there, and that's really ultimately what inspired us, what we didn't know and what people need to know.
I hear the word education there, and Congressman, I often think that's part of what a lawmaker is all about, is educating people on some level. We might not always agree with each other, but why don't you give us your take on this?
Listen, there's no question. We're seeing this epidemic. So we've got a prescription drug epidemic, which leads to heroin abuse. It is in every corner of our community. It's all across our country. So if there are parents, if there are students, if there are people out there watching that don't think that this is a problem in their school district, in their community, frankly, they're not correct. And so we're seeing that this is coming to epidemic proportions, and we need to do everything we can, not only to educate people about this problem, but make sure that we have the resources necessary to combat it. We're working with all the stakeholders, certainly up in Lake County, bringing law enforcement, state's attorney's office, treatment facilities, all together in order for us to try to come up with solutions to the problems. And we're not waiting for Washington. Today was a big step forward for Washington, but we're not waiting just for Washington to move forward. We're working with organizations like CVS and Walgreens as well to help us in this process, not only for the prescription drugs so that they can take them back and perhaps I need someone of the Walgreens around the 10th District, but also around the country. And I think that's a huge initiative as we talk about education, that this is a problem that is expanding and we need to make sure that we are getting our arms around it.
Well, I want to thank you both for joining us from D.C. tonight and telling us about basically taking such a horrible negative and trying to make something positive out of it. Thanks, and good luck as this moves forward through the Senate.